Begin transmission. Hello, everybody. It is Chris, Ben, and Milton here for another episode of the Outer Rim Transmission Star Wars podcast. Tonight, we're talking about the Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3, as well as some updates on the gaming front, as well as the comic front, and maybe more. So, yeah, we're going to get into it this week as we do every week here. How's it going, guys?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing today?
Not bad. I should have specified, I guess. This is a podcast after all.
I was like, okay. But yeah, I'm doing good as well, Milton.
Yeah. It's been a heck of a week, but no, everything's all good. I'm just ready to talk some Star Wars.
There you go. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, it's been a good week as well. Making some progress on the diet, down another pound, so things are going well, and it's been a pretty good week, I would say. In general, I mean, especially. We'll get into the Bad Batch episode, but with that in the middle of the week, it like really springboarded the week, if that makes sense. It was just like such a positive note for me, and it was just such a great middle part of the week.
Oh yeah, now we got the weekly Star Wars to look forward to. I have been constantly, looking at, Willow. So that's been my go-to in between the different Star Wars series. And, well, I'm sad to say that has come to a close for now. It looks like we're getting seasons 2 and 3, so I'm just super, super jazzed about that. But, yeah, Bad Batch is in full swing. Apparently we're getting a Mandalorian Season 3 trailer. Ben, you want to talk about that? Because you're the one that has the details on that. So it's coming out on Monday during an ESPN wild card playoff game. Is that correct?
Yep, during the Monday night, the Cowboys-Buccaneers game, discussing film and everywhere else, reported on it that we're set to be getting the Mando Season 3 trailer at halftime of that game. And, it makes sense because Disney owns ESPN, so, why not put your flagship show on the Cowboys game? People love, the Cowboys games are always the most watched games in general for most of the NFL games, so it's why not put it on the Cowboys in the playoffs? So, it just makes too much sense. And they're facing Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback ever. So it's there's so much viewership on the line. Why not last week or the week before, their last Monday night game, they got 35 million viewers. So you're talking for a playoff game, they're probably getting close to 40 potentially. So it's they're going to get so many eyeballs on that trailer. So it makes perfect sense in my opinion. And like I messaged in our group chat earlier this week, so this basically confirms this is the start of the Mandalorian marketing cycle.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting because I keep a good eye on when these trailers are coming out. We usually get one about 3 months or so before, or even further out, and then we get the one just about at that month mark. So I find it interesting that they're stretching this back a month and a half. I mean, honestly, they don't have anything else to promote big coming out on Disney Plus, so they can take as much time as they want, because Bad Batch I think is the last big thing, and not even for just Star Wars. I don't think there's definitely nothing Marvel coming out on Disney Plus, so it's hey, why not? Let's just start promoting everything now. Besides Ant-Man, that's movie that's coming out in a couple weeks here, but yeah.
Well, that and Bad Batch is out. They don't need the marketing cycle for it now, really. It's out. It's it's gotten its push. So their marketing budget for sure is going to be shifting toward Mando, and it makes sense, really.
Yeah, can you imagine a Super Bowl? They're going to have a big ad for that too, because that's going to be in February. Yeah. So that'll be just a matter of a couple weeks before the show even launches. So yeah, we're going to get inundated with Mando stuff, and it's worth the wait, because last time we got Mando stuff was when 2020. Yeah. It'll be 2.5, almost 3 years since we got a proper Mandalorian. And that's Disney's cash cow. Say what you will about that. That's what made Disney Plus as successful as it is. So they're gonna just shove this down our throats, before we just can't even take any more. Everybody in the planet will know Mando's coming out, and it'll all start this Monday.
Let's be real here too. And we'll get your thoughts on it too, Milton. Let's all be real. We all know the ending of the trailer, probably Monday night's going to have some cute shot of baby Grogu or something, just because there'll be so many people watching.
Oh yeah, they got to do that. They got to do that for sure. Oh man, so we want to welcome everybody to our live chat. We go live every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern, and you can also listen to us after the fact on any podcast app of your choice. There you go. So we're going to jump into our weeks in Star Wars. I'll start this one off. I got back to it. I got to painting the miniatures, the Star Wars Legion miniatures. I'm working on some Mandalorian Super Commandos. I got 3 more squads of those bad boys I got to finish up. But I have a whole new painting area in the computer room where we have an actual computer there, so I could actually watch YouTube. So I've just been chilling out in this like really comfortable computer chair. Just it's a good little hobby to do, especially as it's cold here. There's not much else I can do, so I'm just huddled in the chair painting my miniatures. Getting educated because I'm going to Europe this year, and I'm basically trying to learn as much as I can about World War II, the Cold War, all this stuff. So it's what I've been looking forward to every day, or any day I can get to it. It's like, I can't wait to kind of put on the History Channel, so to speak, on YouTube and just go to town painting and just like absorbing information. So it's been a cool couple of days here, just doing that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'm actually a huge History Channel fan. Usually I watch a lot of History Channel on YouTube.
Oh.
There's one specific channel I go to called like History Timeline or something.
Okay.
Like it's really good. But no, like,
Channel.
I don't do the miniatures. I mean, that's not my thing. So that's all. Usually I'm watching History Channel when I'm working out or doing cardio or something. But yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I mean, it's nice to probably pick up on different language and culture as you're preparing for Celebration this upcoming year.
Oh yeah. We're taking a trip to the Netherlands for Amsterdam, and then we're gonna go over to Berlin. So definitely want to kind of get involved so I can learn to appreciate the surroundings a little bit more as I'm in those cultures.
No, that's what's up, man.
What about you, Ben? You got anything to report back?
I didn't know if Milton was going to talk. I was waiting on Milton. I was like, all right. My week in Star Wars was pretty interesting, actually. It just came to me today. Like, I was going to bring up some other tidbits, but those are irrelevant now. So as of today, I was like, okay, so for starters, let's start here, guys. So we're all guessing that that they're going to announce some Star Wars movie at Celebration, correct? Like, we're expecting that. Like, we think that the rumors for the Lindelof stuff, etc., filming in April, May, like, that all that stuff's out there. So here's the thing. It got me thinking. I was like, oh, isn't this really, really, really peculiar? And also, shout out to John Campion bringing this interview up and putting it on my radar to begin with today. But, so, if you go over to Slash Film,
Okay.
legendary composer John Williams did an interview, and he said, oh, no, I'm not retired, and I'm not done making film scores yet for movies yet at all.
What?
Like, that's not even something. I'm going to continue working, because he said an awesome quote in that article. It was like, I can't even think of it. It was like, life. It was something basically saying music is life, basically, to him. And like, he's going to just keep writing music and making music for movies. And he said he's still going to continue making music for theatrical movies in that interview. And that was just this week. So it's like, oh, isn't that a little coincidence that John Williams says that, and then there's all this talk of a potential movie getting announced at Celebration? To me, it's like, are they going to like bring in the big guns to Celebration and be like, hey, Star Wars is coming back, John Williams is doing the first movie back in 6 years, etc.? Like, is that potentially the announcement?
Yeah, I think there's always a lot of potential at Celebration, and we're going big or going home, because I mean, we had Celebration last year, but there wasn't a big announcement as far as, oh, this is a project we've never heard of. Well, actually, yeah, there was Skeleton Crew. We had never officially heard of that before, but we've heard rumors of it, and it was a show. But I think they're ready. I mean, again, we're often talking about John Campion and the other film pundits on YouTube here that are always keeping a good track record of like how long things have gone. Like Lucasfilm, I think just out of necessity, like Disney's probably like, just like, you guys have to put something out. We haven't had something else since 2019. Like, what's going on? Luckily, they have Indiana Jones, so that counts, I guess, for Lucasfilm's like whatever film slate. But Star Wars and Marvel goes on, every other studio, Pixar, everything. Star Wars is a cinema first IP, right? It started there. It's got to return, and I think if you put a date on it, something's got to come out by at least 2025. And if that's the case, then we should know what's coming out by 2025 if we'll be in the year 2023. So where else are they going to announce something other than just put it out on StarWars.com like they sometimes do? But I mean, if they could wait another less than 3 months at this point, then why not just have it on the biggest world stage for Star Wars fans possible and put out that information there?
Yeah, I mean, that all
point. I mean, it makes sense, but honestly, like, do we look? If they announce a movie, great. And I guess I'm going to be probably the one that's going to be a little skeptical of Star Wars out of our group today. Just because, like, I mean, I think 6 years, it was been what? When was Rise of Skywalker?
Well, basically,
2019.
Milton, so let's say, for all intents and purposes, by the time a movie would come out and say 25, we're 6 years out from a movie.
Right. So, like, I'm hoping, like, at that point, they have a plan in place. Because, I mean, when it comes to the film component of Star Wars, their planning has been lackluster. I mean, people probably don't want to hear this, but the sequel trilogy, financially, it was a success. Like, I can't argue that. No one can argue that. All the movies made billions of dollars, facts. But when it comes to fan acclaim, even some critical stuff at times, like, it wasn't the most successful. It wasn't a bomb, clearly, because people do like those movies. I have to give them that credit too, but they weren't universally loved. You know, they definitely have, like, those elements of how people felt about the prequels back in the mid-2000s. Now, let's say 10 years from now, they might say, hey, you know, looking back at those movies, they're fire. I disagree, especially with The Last Jedi. But my faith in what their movie-making decisions right now isn't the greatest because, again, they haven't been consistent, and the plan wasn't a consistent plan altogether. I'm hopeful that Kathleen Kennedy has learned from her mistakes. That's what good leaders do. Good leaders self-reflect. They do self-assessments. They retool. I mean, we use sports analogies here all the time. Any great head coach that plays or works in any professional sport, if they're successful in winning for 20-plus years or whatever, they always reassess. They're always saying, how can we get better? How can we learn?
Look at over the years as an example for sports. Look at how Nick Saban's changed in Alabama. Every year there's always something different, and they're always the best team in college football. One of the best.
That's a good example. I'll say them and the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Patriots, whatever, like, in those sports, just because those teams are always on top. Star Wars is always one of those main IPs that's universally loved globally. So if Kathleen Kennedy is the face of the franchise, as Nick Saban would be of Alabama, or Bill Belichick would be of the Patriots, or Mike Tomlin of the Steelers, like, those gentlemen and women always have to say, let me reevaluate myself as their leader and coach. Let's reevaluate the staff and coaches around me. In this case with Kathleen Kennedy, it'd be her producers, it'd be her artists, it'd be her actors, it'd be whatever she has to do as the president of, Lucasfilm. I hope she says, hey, let's look back on what happened during that 7-year run. How can we get better? What worked? What didn't? And how can we push forward to bring on a new set of trilogies? I mean, because they're going to do another trilogy. I mean, it just makes sense to do another trilogy at this point.
Well, here's the thing, too. I think with that whole thing, one of the best ways to do it, like ushering in a new movie, like era or whatever, because, it sounds like they're going to be heading post episode 9. But, I feel like a good way with them ushering it in, like if they do bring in John Williams, that'll already like add in a little bit of extra credibility to the fans,
Right. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, if they brought in John Williams or even old boy from the animation movies or the animated shows, Kevin Kiner, or was it Michael Giacchino? Like he's a good composer. He did a good job with Rogue One's soundtrack. Oh, yeah. So like, it's not like they can't bring in these people that can be credible or at least put faith back into the films. The problem's going to be, and people are going to be skeptical of it, is planning. Is there one clear vision and concise story if we're for the trilogy? Because I legit can go back and watch those 3 films and be like, okay, The Force Awakens made sense for what it was. Okay, that's the kick. Last Jedi kind of pivoted, and Rise of Skywalker is like that weird stepchild that's just there. It's just like, no, I mean, and that sounds horrible, but it's like does that movie really fit with what they were trying to do? I think The Last Jedi threw stuff off. Again, that's because there's 2 different directors, multiple writers, 2 different visions.
Yeah.
One was just trying to fix another one's issues. I know we had Leia or what's her name pass away.
Carrie Fisher passed away.
Which was unfortunate. But at the same time, there was like we just didn't have there was no clear plan. And I think Daisy Ridley even kind of said it in the interview. She's like, they were rewriting in the middle of filming because they were trying to get things right. And it's like, wait, what? So I mean, look, Chris, I'm hoping when you're at Star Wars Celebration, was that this upcoming spring?
Yep, April.
When you're there, I'm hopeful that they'll come out and say, hey, we have, like Marvel does, a 10-year gap or 10-year window.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know, like I know DC, with the new DC look, James Gunn and Peter Safran are trying to get that put together, which is great for that brand. So come out, Celebration, Kathleen. If you want to announce some movies, great. Make sure you have a slate. Say, hey, we got trilogy with some anthology or I guess Star Wars stories or whatever, but at least say we're going with this director, this writer for all 3.
Oh man,
just give us something consistent.
Man,
I mean, I could see him doing that. I mean, there's rumors and rumblings out there that's potentially what could be coming at Celebration, but like you mentioned, Milton, it's like they just gotta prove it to us, basically.
Exactly.
Prove
it to us. Again, look, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Okay, I've been a fan since I was a young pup. There's been so many times that the Eagles have done me dirty as a fan, but I keep coming back because they always pull me in. They always set us right for like 4 or 5 years. Then they take 3 years back. They'll take 4 steps back, and all of a sudden we take 5 steps forward. Like Jalen Hurts, you know what I'm saying? Let's go. But as a sports fan, we go through those ebbs and flows too. So as a Star Wars fan, we're going through those ebbs and flows right now. I'm hoping that Kathleen and her team is going to say, hey, let's get this ship back on track. Just because we need to win over the fans like Milton, who have a sour taste in his mouth for how those sequel trilogy movies went and how there was a lack of planning.
And that's why I think they should still go in the Old Republic era, because at least that won't have any bad taste in anybody's mouth because it's brand new characters and all.
Exactly. So I guess, I mean, look, was this even the topic tonight? I'm just going to hijack this section for a minute.
That's all right.
Hey, we're just doing an impromptu celebration movie talk.
If you guys had to pick, like, if you guys were Kathleen Kennedy, and they said, if someone came to you and said, hey, Chris, Ben, what's the next trilogy we should focus on? Like, what would be the ideal trilogy or set of films that you think would win over the public, that will win over the generic Star Wars fan, and obviously that will pull in a hardcore fan and say, "Oh my God, this is what we always want."
I know. So I just said the Old Republic. The Old Republic. Why? Is because it's going to be aesthetically completely different than anything we've seen in Star Wars before. Hell, maybe it doesn't even have lightsabers. Maybe they have it. Maybe they go that far back, and it's like sword, and it's more like a fantasy movie than science fiction.
The vibro blades or something.
Yeah, or something like that. Like maybe it could be in a part where they don't even have hyperspace travel. Like it could be like the Old Republic could be an origin for like a lot of things, not just the Jedi, but they could have like non-force sensitive characters like inventing hyperspace and like learning about exploration. You could have like people over here doing this, because I think that was one of the biggest things about, and I get it. They wanted to make the sequel trilogy nostalgic and familiar for the fans of the original movie. It's like they want to bring in those old fans and bring in the new fans. So it's like we got to have a combination. Okay, they've done that. They milked Star Wars for billions at this point. They've easily made back their $4 billion at this point. Now is when they can start experimenting, start going in other places, and also just the bad taste that's left in a lot of people's mouths from Rise of Skywalker and all that. It makes sense to put that on the back burner, revisit that after they win back more of the fans for the on-screen movie stuff, at least.
Right. Okay, I like that.
I think that's really good. Like you said, Chris, because it kind of like clears the decks basically for all of that, some of that bad taste and whatnot. But for me, I'm leaning actually more toward the post episode 9 stuff, but I would do it in this way. So I would do the post episode 9 stuff, but I think how you do it, how you win over your scorn fans, your fans that love the sequels, your fans that don't. You're fans that love other properties. I mean, you'd have to find a creative way to do the story, but I think the way you do it, I mean, we'll have to see how Mando turns out. But I think the way you do it is you have some of these characters, you have some of the events, maybe you have Thrawn jump the sequel trilogy, because the sequel trilogy only happens over like a year and a half, 2 year span or whatever. So if you can have Thrawn, I think, jump the sequel trilogy and be the new big bad for like the film universe, do that. It gets hardcore fans online because people are like, oh my gosh, we're finally getting Thrawn in the movies, blah, 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 blah. And then you get your sequel fans because they'll be like, oh, it's the sequel era, blah, 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 And then you have Thrawn be to me, like the Thanos, like literally just be the Thanos of the Star Wars universe. You don't even have to do a trilogy. You could do a series of movies leading up to some big battle with Thrawn or something eventually, just because you have it all built up and you have the goodwill from the Mandalorian and you have Grogu, who, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, Grogu is their failsafe because, look, he's only 50 years old and he's cute as hell. So just jump it another 20 years past the sequel trilogy, he's still going to be a little baby and still cute as hell. So the thing is, you still have Grogu to play around with. You have Thrawn to play around with. You have some of the other, like the actual, Din probably will be too old by then. But, you have the Mandalorian-esque, like the Mandalorians can appear then post episode 9. So you have a lot of goodwill built up. I think the way you craft post episode 9 is through the Mandoverse of shows and go that route, because then it's the most popular Mandalorian. That whole saga is like the most popular thing out there, one of them. So like I think you go that route and have Thrawn be your big bad, because my thing I keep going back to on guys is like this. Think about it this way. Say we have a potential movie getting announced in Celebration this coming April. My thing is, by the time the Mandalorian season, at least season 4 is done, that'll be before the end of it'll be maybe next fall of 24 maybe, or maybe spring of 25. So think about it, like, how are they going to end the Mandoverse? Because, they talked about, like, connecting these shows into one climatic crossover event or whatever. My thing is, a lot of these roads are pointing to the Mandoverse ending in 25, and maybe the movie that gets introduced in 25 in that December slot is the wrap up of the Mandalorian saga into post episode 9.
And then they could spit out more movies after that big event.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking, because like, where else would the Mandalorian? How else are they going to end the Mandoverse? They can't do it like the CW, where you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, episode of Mando, Ahsoka. You can't do it like that. How the CW did it with Arrow, The Flash, Legends. You can't do it that way, because that's not how the shows air on Disney Plus. So to me, they have to do it through a movie. And all signs point to, if they announce a movie, it's probably going to be connected to the Mandoverse. I would guess anyways, but that's kind of my thoughts. I think I would go down the route of connecting the Mandalorian universe to the wider theatrical version of the saga, and then have Thrawn be your Thanos.
Then we're going to have Finn going up against the Thrawn. Okay.
I mean, if he's the biggest threat of the galaxy at that time, because you could have Thrawn coming back like, hey, I'm the big bad left.
What do you think about that, Milton? Which one? Would you rather go back in time, or would you go into the future?
I mean, like, either way. I mean, look, I think, honestly, I would love to see definitely Old Republic. Like, and they got to be able to fight. Like, I'm talking about, like, Bastila Steel, all those, like, characters. Like, they're fire. I go with the Old Republic. Like, I want to see those characters just wreck people. You know what I'm saying? And I want to see Jedis that can fight. Like, I that's one thing I don't like about the sequels. They just couldn't fight, in my opinion. I think another one, when it comes to flashing forward, God, because I'm such a huge Legends fan, and like, I know those books so well. Like, we had the perfect opportunity for the Legacy of the Force books, or even like the new Jedi Order ones. So I couldn't even tell you where I want to go at this point. If you're going to go in the future, It's got to be at least 100 years, just because like you got to at least separate it, unless you really want to rebuild Rey's stock.
What it sounded like.
You know, if you want to rebuild Rey's stock, then you need to adapt. You need to adapt the Legends books that are currently there and kind of like center it around her, but like spring her off with some new characters that at least strengthen her, but also kind of redeem her too. Because I just feel like Rey, to me, she really ain't a Skywalker in my opinion. She don't really feel important to the Star Wars saga. Yeah, I know she wrecked Palpatine, but that don't really mean nothing to me. Like, I mean, and I'm one fan. I'm not saying my word matters, but like when I hear Luke Skywalker, he's impactful. When I hear Leia Organa, she's impactful. When I hear Anakin, impactful. You know what I'm saying? Obi-Wan. You know what I'm saying? But like Rey, I'm like, all right.
Well,
like, like, you know what I'm saying? So if they're going to use her, they got to rebuild her right.
Well, my thing that gets me about her...
Or
go on, Milton.
No, but I say they got to pull a Rocky 4 or a Rocky 3 with Rey.
Oh, facts. Well, see, that's my thing that gets me about Rey. I mean, this could be a 2-hour podcast on this discussion to begin with. My thing when it comes to Rey is she is one of the most like underused, underappreciated, underrated character, or like underwhelming characters. I love Daisy Ridley's portrayal of Rey. Like she plays her so well, and then like it feels like after episode 7, it just felt like she was like barely used, you know, especially episode 8. I don't know about you guys, but like to me, having her just flying around in the Falcon at the end of episode 8 with Chewie is so lame. Like to me, it's like she should have been doing something, like, because Daisy Ridley does such a good job of portraying her. It's like I would love to see them do more with her. Maybe, you know, like her and Finn, like maybe Finn's her first like apprentice or something, or you know, and them rebuilding the Jedi or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just going to be interesting because I'll talk to you guys about some of the little things that Jeff Snyder talked about that are real interesting for some of these upcoming projects after the podcast. But yeah, like there's definitely some potential in that direction.
Yeah. So whether go ahead.
No, I just want, like I said, I don't want to be negative about this all the time. Like, because like I said, there are parts of the sequels that I do like. There are parts of it. I'm just saying, if Kathleen Kennedy is the leader that we think she is, and if they want to portray Rey as the new face of Star Wars moving forward, because again, she's not dead, so you don't want to just let that character sit. You want to at least continue to tell her story. So I think you have to go outside your way to build her up. Now, build her up to the point where there are stakes with her, where she earns it. Like Luke Skywalker earned where he was. Anakin earned who he was as a character. Obi-Wan.
Here's the thing.
Go ahead.
I don't know how you get much greater than earning by killing the Emperor of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
how do you have bigger stakes than that? Like, I mean, the guy was destroying a fleet with his fingertips with lightning.
Well, okay, Milton, I like Milton's trying to say, like, you know, just the way they portrayed it, you know, it just didn't work well. Because, like I said, the movie, you know, that's why.
In this entire sequel, nothing bad happens to her in this sequel. And someone tried to tell me, well, Milton, her parents are left or were killed. I'm like, yeah. So what? Parents aren't killed in Star Wars. Yeah, like, but I'm just
that's facts.
Luke saw his aunt and uncle get burned to death. All right, just saying, he turned out fine. But like, she never gets hurt. She's not really challenged. Every challenge she comes up against, she winds up winning. I don't know how. Like that first fight in The Force Awakens, she should have lost. I don't care what anyone tells me. And like for her to never physically get hurt at all, it's goofy. Because Kylo got his face right. He got stabbed by her. You know, how does that happen? Luke gets his arm cut off. Anakin gets his arm sliced off. And he gets burned and becomes Darth Vader. Like, Leia gets her whole entire planet wiped out. Like, I'm just saying, Rey to me didn't earn it as her character because she doesn't go through anything. Please, I mean, if anyone's listening, rewatch those movies and you'll see what I'm talking about. They're like, man, Rey really just wipes through, like she just wrecks everybody. How? Like that's not good, right? That's not how you develop a character. You have to have him or her relate to the audience. You have to say, hey, we would go through something like that. We would be triggered by these things. We would have to struggle.
Well,
Even
I
though
mean, she was struggling, though. I mean, in The Force Awakens, she's growing up on this desert planet, like barely scrounging by with these portions that she
all right,
Guys,
basically tried to.
well, all right. So here's the thing. I think this is the hang up for this discussion, and like the part I think that people always like miss when it comes to this, like it's an issue with the movie making. Like, to me, it's not even like the on-screen content, it's the movie making and the decisions that take place, because like I'm pretty sure to like the Last Jedi book, I think it was the Last Jedi, or it might have been the end of the Force Awakens, whatever, but like the events of Force Awakens and Last Jedi are literally like a week apart. Like, you need to stretch that out so it gives Rey 2 or 3 years of training, because when you wake up a week later, it's like we still have the same character from episode 7, continuing on. So like I think that's the problem with it, was it's just, again, management. Yeah. Like, I think that was the big part, and like it's like, hopefully, I don't know, I feel like the way they're heading though with it, Milton, I think they I feel like they gotta have taken feedback, because, or at least criticism, because like if you think about it, like after Last Jedi and after Rise, like they've been pretty safe, like on listening to the fans on like decision making for the most part. Like, I mean, heck, they gave us a Book of Boba Fett show. Maybe in their eyes they thought it was going to be great, like, but they gave us a Boba Fett show because like the fans were like crying out for it. So like they're listening. So maybe on this next theatrical run they'll like actually give us something, to really be hype about.
I've said it since day one of this podcast. They got the source material. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got it. Pull the best of the source material and adapt it. It don't got to be the same exact story. We cannot have Jaina and Jason Solo. I understand that. I can read those and listen to those all day, so be it. But you know what? Those story treatments and elements of those particular books, or any other books out there, you can take those and adapt them into the movies. Just, if you got to rename characters, rebrand them, so be it. That's fine. I can, again, it's Legends. I can go back and read them separately. We got the source material. Adapt it. It's good. I think
that's what they're doing with the Thrawn stuff right now. I think we're getting a rough adaptation of Heir to the Empire. Like, I think that's what they're doing right now with this saga, because like it's inevitable. Like, we know we're going to be getting Luke. Like, whenever we have this big battle thing or whatever, whatever happens with the conclusion of the Mandoverse, like, Luke's going to be in it, I'm sure. Right. Ahsoka's obviously in it. And so on and so on.
So this goes back to your original question, Chris, or my question, but me answering it now. What I want to see for Star Wars moving forward, like at this point, that's going to win me over. I need a Darth Plagueis movie for sure, with a Matt Smith playing Palpatine. Or I need some type of like Luke Skywalker miniseries, like 2 or 3 seasons, with him like doing what he's doing, like after Return of the Jedi. You give me that, or give me an animation of that. I'll be fine.
There you go. That's our question to you in the chat. Also, we had a cool guy stopping in from Britain. He was saying he got his name is Dr. Mad Studio, and he was saying, as we were going over this, he actually he purchased off Etsy a medical glass vial with a label written on it in Arabic, and it's the Black Wing Shadow virus, or the Black Wing virus from Death Troopers. He was I was talking with him in the chat as you guys were going back and forth, and it was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, that's got to be one of the coolest, like, collectible things to have. And the way he was, like that. Yeah, the way he's explaining is like you could see like this stuff that's like floating around inside of this tube. Very interesting. It's like red spores, and they float around when you move it.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure you gave him a shot. He's like, yeah, it's almost 2 a.m. here and where he's at, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, we want to hear from you guys as well in the chat or after the fact. Are you looking forward to more of something going in the future with Star Wars, or something going even before the time of the High Republic? Let us know in the comment section down below. Getting into this week's releases, we had quite a few on the comic side of things. We had 4 issues of various comics. First off, we had the adaptation, as we were just talking, for The Mandalorian. This is based off season 1, episode 7, The Redemption, or whatever that episode is called. We also had Darth Vader issue number 30, as well as the High Republic issue number 4 and the High Republic Adventures issue number 2. So yeah, Marvel is not stopping giving us an onslaught of comics, and they actually revealed and announced a new one this week. It's called Star Wars Darth Vader, Black, White, and Red. And just when you thought you needed less Darth Vader, they give us more. And yeah, that's my bone to pick with Marvel and Disney and Lucasfilm or whoever's giving the call. It's like, man, oh man, I get why they're making these Darth Vader comics, but it is getting tiring. It's like there's so many other characters in the Star Wars galaxy. Let's see, we had 3 Darth Vader ongoing runs, and we have the Vader crossover down, then we have Vader Dark Visions, and we had a canceled Darth Vader series. It's like, just, okay, like, give us a Quinlan Voss comic book already, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they, like I messaged in our group chat back, all I messaged was the money symbol, and that's why, because they know if you even tell an okay story with Darth Vader in terms of like books and stuff, people will buy it because it's Darth Vader. It's the most iconic villain probably ever, just period, like movies, shows. And then, you know, I mean, it's Darth Vader. Like, I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna keep pushing out comics, books.
They don't even make that many books with him. That's the crazy part. There's literally only one Darth Vader book out right now. It's called Lords of the Sith. It's not even just him. It's him and the Palpatine.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they haven't had a straight up Darth Vader book. Besides,
yeah,
that came out in 2016, I think, or earlier.
I think some of that too has to do with they want to be careful of getting, like, to me, like when it comes to like closeness to the movies, you know, you have like the movies, the shows, the books and games are probably on the same level, and I would say comics maybe are like one tier a little bit below that in terms of like their prioritizing. And I feel like the closer you get to like the shows, like to the like the books and video games, like that's a little too close for comfort for them in terms of like the shows and movies. So it's like they want to play it safe just in case they want to do like a kind of reworking of stories like they've done with say like we all talked about it with Bad Batch season 1 with Kanan in the comics versus Kanan in Bad Batch. So I think that's kind of what they're doing with Vader. Like, they want to make sure they don't get too close to the timeline, too close to, like, you know, the events in terms of like the live action events, because it's like they want to make sure they don't have, you know, they got backlash about Kanan. You know, if they go and do something with Vader and then change it up in a show right away, like, people would be all over them for that. So, like, I think that's why. Yeah,
that makes sense. It's just, oh man, it's like just when you think we were done with that whole thing. Nope, here's another Darth Vader. The funny part is we still have that ongoing. It's not even like that's ending. So we're gonna technically have 2 Darth Vader books coming out at the same time.
You know, at Celebration, I mean, they're gonna have plenty of Vader merchandise because it's the Return of the Jedi thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. They'll probably have a third Darth Vader story, because remember we reported on they were doing those like one-shot Return of the Jedi. One of the first was Jabba. Guarantee that there will be a Darth Vader one in there, like you said, somewhere. Yeah, it is what it is. I'm just, you know, nitpicking is all. Speaking of video games, this was a really cool, surprising thing. Came out from the one reporter. Well, he's not. I don't know if he's a reporter or not. Somebody on Twitter made a post. Benji Sales. They have the NPDs for the overall sales of video games for the year of 2022. And Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga came in 5 out of 10, which is really surprising. I did not realize how well this game was selling and was hitting with people. I've basically played over 100 hours in the game, and I know, Ben, you've played it a little bit, but like I'm gonna run down this list real quick. NPD list. So number 1, of course, who would expect? Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Number 2, Elden Ring. Of course, it's a big one this year. Ben, this one's for you. We got Madden 23 coming in at number 3. God of War Ragnarok, a PlayStation exclusive game, coming at number 4. Lego Star Wars, as I said, number 5. Lego Star Wars beat out Pokemon Scarlet and Violet at number 6. It beat out FIFA, which is always a really high selling game, at number 7. It beat out another Pokemon game, Pokemon Legends Arceus. It beat out Horizon Forbidden West, and it beat out MLB The Show 22. So, like, man, oh man, like, it actually was able to overcome some staunch, veteran type games out there. I'm surprised as heck it did this well.
Here's the thing to think about. Okay, so I know this is a Star Wars podcast. What number was the Pokemon Scarlet game?
6.
Yeah, think about that. Okay, guys, that game came out, I'm pretty sure, like the first week of November, and it's number 6.
Yeah,
like that is like psycho prices. Like, that is crazy. They made that much money in just 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what in the world? Like, just to throw that out there, that shows you how popular that franchise is, and like how much fans are into that. But like with Star Wars, it's crazy to see like a Lego game, that like cracking the top 5 in sales, like with the popular games like Call of Duty and Madden, Elden Ring, all those things. Like, it's awesome seeing like a Star Wars game, especially a Lego game, cracking the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's a family-based game, so you're going to get a lot of higher people. I'd be very curious to see whether Jedi Survivor or Lego Star Wars ends up making more money, because I think as it stands, when I last checked, Lego Star Wars is around like 4 million units sold. So I don't know how much Fallen Order sold the first game, but that could be pretty interesting. But, this just goes to show Disney, make more games. You make a lot of money when you make your video games. Just make more of them. More frequent. There you go. Just make sure you have quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. And they've been doing good with that. Every game that's come out, except Star Wars Uprisings, besides that game, I think it's been at least a 7, if not an 8 out of 10. On my scale, at least.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah, so I think we're ready to get into our discussion proper here for what we're here to talk about tonight. As the title suggests, The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3, titled The Solitary Clone, in which we have the return of Commander Cody, who orders none other than Crosshair, who we were roaring about, wasn't in the premiere last week. We get to see plenty of him as they go on a rescue mission when a governor is taken by some separatist holdouts, and it's up to him and them to break them out. I'm going to start this one. I'm going to throw a wrench in the equation. I'm going to go ahead and give my thoughts on this one first, and then I'll throw it to you guys. Man, oh man. So many things to talk about. This was a complete tonal shift from the premiere, if you ask me. This felt more like an Andor episode. It felt more like a Clone Wars episode, like the Rookies episode or the Umbar arc episodes, or the Landing at Point Rain episodes on Geonosis. Like, this is a elite clone force going in. This reminded me of Black Hawk Down meets Star Wars. Their transport crashes down. It's just a couple clones versus tanks versus droid takers versus commando droids. Literally everything that could get thrown at them, and they came out on top using ingenuity of the clones and the extra adept combat abilities of Crosshair being a engineered clone and all that. But it felt somber. I loved the musical taste in this. Kevin Kiner put in a music track that reminded me like I was watching something from like Blade Runner or something, like a very atmospheric kind of different sound for Star Wars that did evoke some of the Clone Wars music to a certain degree. We got great tie-ins to, again, the legacy of Count Dooku, the Separatists, how they mentioned that, he had a good idea, but maybe he went about it the wrong way. Just the overall scope of where we're seeing this going. Commander Cody going AWOL. He's like thinking against the orders of the Empire as the second person in the last 2 episodes versus Captain Wilco got killed. And Crosshair, maybe he's feeling remorse. Like, there's just so much happening in this episode that I'm going to just say right now, this was easily a 9 out of 10 episode. I'm not going to wait for it. And it's definitely one of the best Bad Batch episodes to date. I'm going to throw it over to Ben.
Yeah, to me, this is top three in terms of Bad Batch ever, at least top 3, if not the best, potentially. Like, it's right there, 1, 2, or 3 for me. And it's just because, like, for all the points you mentioned, like the tone, the action, the story, like the character choices between like Cody and Crosshair, like the whole negotiation scene between Cody and the governor, like that whole thing was so good. And then seeing Cody's reaction when she gets gunned by Crosshair, like that whole, like I was surprised by it. Like I at first thought she was gonna like make it out of it. Like, you know, I thought Cody was gonna like shut the situation down, and you know, of course it doesn't go that way. Like, so those type of things happening, to me, it's just like, man, this is like great storytelling, great episode writing, and also it kind of confirms what we discussed last, or what I brought up to you guys last week on the podcast. So I think our question, and especially I think Milton, it was your like one of your main critiques last week, was I think our question got answered. Like I think the storyline is purely going to be based around like the Clone Rebellion. Like I think that's the story we're getting. And I think it's going to keep progressing each episode. Like this week, boom, we get Cody going AWOL. So like, what's it going to be next week? Like maybe Cody meeting up with the guys, or like, you know, them hearing rumors and tracking them down or something. Like, you know, I think they answered our story question of what's going on. And I think that question is the Clone Rebellion.
There you go. Milton? Opening thoughts.
I like this episode a lot. I mean, to me, this is up there with the premiere episode. I think the oh my god, who was in the bounty hunter who's in season 2? Not Phoenix. Cad Bane episode.
Yeah.
And this one. These are my top 3 episodes thus
Whoa.
far. First of all, that opening shot of the planet looked gorgeous. I thought the visual. I think they stepped their game up with the visuals in this particular episode. Like the way they shot it, the way it looked very cinematic to me. I love this episode. I legit said it to myself watching it. I'm thinking, if this is going to be the entire season, I'm going to like this season.
Yep.
My fear is next week's going to be a Sid episode. And I'm gonna be like, what? Like you had all this momentum, but like, I love this episode. I love that it was a focus on the clones, and this is what it was called, the Bad Batch. Like, and yes, they're always in the episodes, but this truly felt like an episode about clones and like the idiosyncrasies of the Empire and the inside baseball of the Empire and the corruption and, you know, like the questioning. Like that's what we want to see, because we now need to see how they're going to start phasing out more elements of the Republic and bringing in obviously elements of the Empire. They're going to start phasing out the clones. I mean, he kind of hinted at it in this episode about saying, he's like, yeah, you know, isn't it crazy how more clone troopers keep disappearing or whatever? You know, and I think they meant something about recruiting in this episode too. So, but I loved it. I loved how the action flowed, the music, the visuals, the story. This is perfect storytelling. Like, again, this is definitely a 9 or a 10 type episode. Facts.
Yeah.
One thing for me, go on, Milton.
I'm about to say, if they continue to make this show like this episode, then I'm going to like watching every week. You know, I got up from the gym, came home and watched it at 6 o'clock in the morning as I was getting ready for the day. I rarely do that. You guys know that. I always usually watch these during the day. But I was like, oh, let me check this one out, because I saw one of you guys' messages about, hey, this is a good episode. I was like, okay, let me check it out. I'm thinking, oh, okay, like this is good. Like I like this one. I'm thinking this is fire. My fear is Sid's going to show back up next week, and I don't want to see her. Like, come on.
The Imperials are going to get her. They're going to get her. We're going to open up. We're going to see Imperial gunships going down, blowing the place up. Like, yay! We're going to be over here going, yay!
I think this is, well, one thing to note on this episode too as a whole. I mean, I think you briefly mentioned it, Chris, but I liked how they did the opening with Rampart and the closing with Rampart on the episode. Like, I really, really liked that a lot, actually, because it felt, I don't know, it felt like a video game to me, you know, like you're starting with your mission, like your commander, and you're ending, you know, like with your commander. Like, you know, it felt like a video game.
Yeah.
Like,
I love quest giver.
And
Yep.
Go on, Chris. Sorry.
No, like he's a quest giver. You're getting the quest and you're returning the quest back in, like World of Warcraft. Yep.
I love that feel. I really, really loved it. And then my thing is, this is my fear for next week. Add to our great Sid discussion. Everyone on the podcast knows we just love that character. But I think this coming week, and I feel like it's inevitable, but It's gonna go back to our guys in Omega. Sid's gonna go, have him go on some type of a mission, and then at the end we'll get the hint of Cody. I bet you that's the way they'll go. Then again, I mean, who knows? We might get a Cody episode next week, and it just be like Cody trying to find the guys. But I don't know. I could see it being Cody hinted at the end of the episode coming up, just because of, our track record with the show.
Mm-hmm. So let's start off by kind of going maybe through a little bit of a chronological order for the most part. Just opening with this planet. I literally said out loud, I was like, "Ooh, is it not Solus? Is this the planet from Kessel?" I was like, "Oh, is this Kessel?" Because it's like a lot of dust and everything going around. And it was just so neat to see the Imperials trying to kind of get their power and just take over other places. Like, I like to see how that transpired. The Imperials are showing up with their forces, like, yeah, we're basically just taking over. And they're like, no, you aren't. So it's really cool to see, like, not everybody's just going to fall over for them. Not everybody's just going to be like, okay. Like, these guys straight up, this woman who is related or not related, that was a staunch supporter of the Separatists, was a Separatist. It's like, no, this is our territory. Screw you, essentially. And it's just cool to see how that happens, because the Empire does extend its power very, very far into the galaxy. As we see with Mando, it doesn't go quite as far as the Outer Rim, but it's nice to see how that spread of the influence goes in the early days of the Empire.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the more charming parts of this episode was, just seeing the spread of it. Like, it's just because if you think about it with like our live action stuff, we saw a bit of it. The original trilogy, we saw some, but it's not, I mean, like, we saw Leia getting arrested, basically. We saw like some of the Imperials on Tatooine, but they only were there because of the escape pods. Like, we saw bits and pieces of like the Imperials, but like, even if you think about it, like, other than like the trap for Luke on Bespin, like, we didn't see like the Imperials occupying Bespin. Like, they weren't there, like spreading like the Imperial vibe, basically. So like, it's cool actually getting to see like the I guess like the claws of the Empire, like, or like the tentacles of the Empire, I guess you would say, like spreading out more and more across the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like they're there and out of sight, but on this show they're there and in sight. Like, you actually know they're there.
That's a good point. I mean, I agree with that. Both you and Ben, or Chris and Ben, what you said about the Empire just spreading it and seeing how that's done. I mean, I think that's what these shows are supposed to be designed to do. These are the more micro approaches when it comes to storytelling, in the sense of like what's going on within the world of Star Wars. Because again, like, we know Luke Skywalker and those guys will be coming in 10 years, whatever it is at this time. At some point, in the sense of when they're adults, we get that. However, the world don't evolve around the Skywalkers. I want to see what's going on with the Empire too. So like, I'm liking that we're seeing this, and I hope we get more of it. I hope we get to see more development of the Empire and how it's affected the clones. Because again, people don't understand. If I show the Star Wars film to a random person now, they're not going to know that there used to be clone troopers. They're going to say, "Oh, these stormtroopers are like regular human beings," and it's like, no, there's a story behind why they're just regular human beings, and they're no longer clones. So I'm glad we get to see this, and I hope we get to see more of it.
Yeah, I'm very curious if George Lucas ever divulged the information to Dave Filoni, like exactly why they phased them out. Because we got the Clone Wars.
I'm pretty sure that's in like a book or something. I think it was like the Empire felt like it was just it was too much to do clones, and it cost too much, and
like numbers, basically.
Get more numbers and that type of thing. It was like a cost thing too. Honestly, they were all about the money.
Yeah, because it's a very big plot point, right? I mean, this is a big transition of power. I would like to think that George Lucas gave the notes to Dave, and then Dave gave the notes to Brad Rowell and Corbett, the writers on the show, to be like, all right, here's the rough idea, elaborate. And that's what their responsibilities are, to really flesh this out. But they've been given the broad strokes already, sort of thing.
Right.
Oh yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Like they're probably like just going off that and like, just filling in the details. Like, especially like with Dave Filoni being involved. Like I just think he has such a good beat on this stuff in terms of like creating the stories, creating like a general gist and direction of where like fans would like things to go, with the characters, with the, not even with the characters, with the actual like the outcomes of the galaxy, like in terms of the politics, the Imperial Army, the just the overall story. I feel like Filoni has such a good beat on that stuff. We've seen that in Bad Batch, we saw that in Rebels, Clone Wars, obviously, and then we'll see that in Ahsoka too. Like I feel like Ahsoka is going to be another big hit show just because it's like, I think he has such a good beat on the fans, or what's the word? Like like the pulse of the fans. Like he knows what they like, what they don't like, what they what they may need, they don't need, they don't know they need. Like I feel like he has such a good understanding of the fandom. Like that's why we're getting episodes like this in this show, because these are questions that us three would be sitting here on a podcast. If this show didn't exist, we'd be sitting here on this podcast going, man, I wonder how the Empire phased out the clones. That'd be something fans would bring up. And it's good that they're like covering it.
Yeah, let's get into this new character named Tawny Ames, who is the governor of, what's the planet called? It's something with a D.
Is it like Destra or something?
Desi or something?
I can't remember, yeah.
But anyway, it's interesting because like this Imperial governor comes in. He's like, I am now the governor of your planet. She's like, no, I'm the governor of my own planet. So they have this disagreement, and then they have this discussion in the throne room or whatever that place is, where it's like he's like, oh, we're the Empire, that's purpose is to bring peace and security to the galaxy or something, and she's talking about this legacy of Dooku, or the legacy of the Separatists, talking about how she was partners with Mina Bonteri, and she references an exact Clone Wars episode moment where we have the Separatists like getting together with the Republic to actually like sign this like peace agreement. And then it's like when Dooku like screws it up behind the scenes or something like that. So she's basically like, yeah, we tried peace already. It didn't work. So I like the comparison of the ideologies that we have. And again, like Milton, you said, like movies, they don't really have time to deal with like little things like this, but it's great. And that's where this show shines, because it has had moments like this where we know the show has potential and it gets into the details like this. And then we get an episode where they're running around killing bugs in the sewers for 20 minutes. And we're like, well, where's the good stuff? Like this is the good stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why it's like this. If this show is going to be like this all season, then I'm going to love it. If we get a Sid episode, which Ben, you're probably right. We'll probably get a Sid episode, and I'll
at the end.
Hey, this shit is trash. But like, it's just look. Again, this was nice. I love seeing this. I love seeing more of the Empire. I mean, I even feel like even with the premiere, we got to see at the end. We got to see more of the Empire's development and where they're at. So I think that should be the primary purpose of this particular season, is the story of the clones and where they're going. The development of the Empire, because I know we should get Palpatine in one of these episodes or two or whatever coming up. So I'm going to be glued to that episode, because once he's on the screen, I'm not taking my eyes off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like it's like you both said, it's nice getting these moments, with these characters, with the ramifications, with the connection to the other properties, like the Clone Wars show. Now, maybe our viewers or listeners, if they're listening on the podcast, they'd be like, oh man, let me go back and check out that episode, just because it's cool that they're making connections to make things rewatchable. Like that's the important thing with a lot of these shows, and their connectivity in canon is like making the other shows mean something, and like that connects back to the old Clone Wars. And then yeah, it's just like, it's good getting to like see like these ramifications, and like you mentioned, Milton, we're gonna get Palpatine here soon enough. I'm leaning toward, I think it's gonna be toward whatever episode was titled Clone Conspiracy. I think it's gonna be somewhere around that one. maybe we're going to be getting something like, Palpatine giving some public address about just totally phasing out the clones or something, something like totally galaxy wide. I think that's where they might go with Palpatine, because I don't know where else he would be included. Like, he has to be talking about the clones, right? I mean,
you're right.
I don't know.
Could be. Yeah, so another thing that I noticed, which was really cool, and I think somebody had said in the they'd seen this in the trailer and was already in the Clone Wars, was this Geonosis, or the Battle of Geonosis War Memorial on Coruscant. Have we seen that before?
I've never seen it.
I
If
thought
we
that's...
did, I don't remember.
That is so cool, because it really puts like the lives of the clones as individuals front and center for everybody to remember. Like, no, they aren't just numbers. It's not just them as brethren, like, with one another. Like, anybody can go, like civilians, I guess, would be able to see the legacy of the clones. Like, is this thing still standing? Even in the Imperial era, maybe they get bad blood and they destroy it because they don't want people to see the legacy of the clones. But I thought that was just so cool. The monuments, it harkens back to real life stuff in our own world here with monuments and whatnot of different wars and whatnot. But yeah, what was your thoughts on that?
I didn't even notice it, honestly. Like, I had no idea. But I mean, if it's there, that's what's up. That's pretty dope. I mean, that's very much a real world thing, for sure. And even like you mentioned, like the numbers of the clones, you notice how usually the clones are the ones that call each other by their names, but the Imperial soldiers are
oh yeah,
and the numbers like CT99 blah 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 blah. He's like, you mean Cody? He's like, yeah, Commander Cody. Like, and so, but he says it in a way where he's like, I'm not giving these mother effers names. Like, I'm going to just
These are like robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's neat. We get to see Coruscant for the first time in animation post Revenge of the Sith, I believe. This is the first time we're seeing that in animation, I think. And that was pretty cool, seeing the barracks of the clones, seeing how Crosshair, even though he's a clone, he's a different clone, and we're seeing the reactions of the other clones. They still look at him like that, and it's just like interesting. We get some more information out. It's been 30 rotations since he was left on Kamino, and in Star Wars storytelling, there is no actual days. They don't really say that. They say rotations just so they can be nebulous about time. But I mean, that seems like it's a substantial amount of time. I would assume that's a month or a couple months maybe in Star Wars' time. So interesting little tidbits about, how long it's been perhaps since season 1 at this point.
Oh yeah. Like that was a part that made my like ears perk up. I was like, man, I wonder how long that is. But like you said, they never will tell us the exact time on stuff just because they don't want us to know the exact time on certain events and things, like maybe, like I know one thing that was always brought up, like if you look at the galactic map of like Bespin and Dagobah, like it's so far away, like people were like Luke could have been on Dagobah for like a half year or something, or close to a year potentially, like for a long time, and so like that's the thing, you really don't know the timing on events in Star Wars because of like how far places are apart, how just all of that sort of stuff. So it is cool just seeing them like reference that, at least just to like it adds a little bit of that, like I don't know, just authentic feel to like, hey, they have time there, we just don't know how to tell it. And one thing I do want to throw out there real quick before we move on past the Geonosis memorial statue, I think keep an eye out maybe in the upcoming Mandoverse shows. If we ever go to Coruscant with Dave Filoni involved, we might see that statue in live action potentially, or it broken or something. Think about that. Like he might do that. This is his show. Like, so, he might throw that in there as just a little reference. So that's something just to throw out there to our listeners as well for the upcoming Mando shows.
Yeah, Mando.
Yeah, just an idea.
Yeah, so getting into the overall action, let's talk about that because that was a big standout. It's just, we're seeing battle droids again, and they are comedic as always, but it wasn't nothing that took me out of it. But it was cool to see a good old clones versus droids episode. This is very much a Clone Wars episode here. Clone Wars episode on steroids. Just seeing the adeptness and the skill level of Crosshair with that sniper. Just, it's like a video game. First person shot, boom, 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 boom. And then even going as far as using those reflective pieces of metal that he's able to ricochet the bullets off. That is so freaking cool. Like, I don't know. Anybody want to talk about how cool the action was in this episode?
It was tight. I mean, it's probably one of the better action episodes in the series. Yeah, I like that particular part with the gun being shot. Like when he ricocheted, that was pretty dope because he's like, what are you going to do? He's like, just throw it as far as you can. Now, I mean, that was pretty legit. Yeah, I like how violent this show is, and that sounds kind of like dramatic. What I'm saying is like they're not afraid to be aggressively violent, not in a manner that's over the top, but it's like, oh wait, old boy got shot in the face, or like they executed an old girl like it's nothing. Like you don't normally get that in most cartoons. However, this is streamed on a private network or a private company, so you can get with doing that type of violence again, but it's not over the top neither. It's just a bullet shot pretty much. But yeah, it was cool to see how the action was. I thought it was nice to see the clones be what they are and their strategy, or use their strategy, use their wit, outthinking the droids. I actually was thinking about calling them tinnies. Remember how in Clone Wars how Ahsoka calls them tinnies?
No, I don't remember.
I was thinking, man, like this brings you back to Clone Wars because like it's just cool. That's what Ahsoka would say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking that clankers, all that good old stuff. When I was watching it. What do you say, Milton?
I was like, yeah, I agree. Clankers. I forgot about that one. So.
Yep. Oh yeah, there's plenty of that. One thing too. This is one of the first times in animation in terms of like what we've seen, other than a few episodes, like maybe like the Vader versus Ahsoka stuff or the Kanan sacrifice moment. Like this is one of the few times I've thought after watching an episode, one of my first reaction was like, dang, I wish this was in live action. Like this episode, like, man, would have this been such a damn cool live action episode? Like, because I've only had that reaction a few times with some of these projects, and it's like, oh man, this would have been so cool just to see a live action version of this. Just the way the action was shot, like you said, Chris, to start the podcast, it was kind of like Black Hawk Down. And just yeah. Oh, one thing I noticed too, they just nailed it. Like on every aspect of this episode, they hit like every checkbox between the action, the music, the sound effects, the actual sound effects of like the droids.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but like even though of course we know like Crosshair and Cody were gonna live, like I mean, I didn't expect them to have Cody get gunned down by a droideka, but like when you hear like the droideka's rolling, it's like, oh man, it gets you a little anxious for the hero in this episode because it's like it brings you back to that feel of Phantom Menace. Like what are these things? You know?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. Go on.
No, I was just I was literally gonna make the same point about the sound design is so good in this episode because when it comes to Star Wars, just like when they say they create characters that have silhouettes, so you can see their silhouette and know what character is, and that's how a lot of the Star Wars artists work to create new characters. The same could be said with the sounds, right? Like you don't even have to see an image to know what the sound of a droideka is after all these years, and you're like, oh crap, and then you see how they're struggling. Yeah, you see how they're struggling to get to droidekas. Like, I think one of the clone troopers, like one of the flamethrower guys gets taken out. So like Milton said, they don't hold back any punches here. Like there's guys going down left and right. We see all the dead bodies of the clones when the door opens up after the crash ship and the droids are looking around. So I really like that. I mean, like again, this feels like the Battle of Umbara. This feels like the Battle of Landing at Point Rain or Rookies, where we're getting those deep into the clones. And I just don't know how I feel about when yes, Crosshair is part of the Bad Batch, but this episode is like, for me, this is the kind of show I want. And then when we go back to the proper Bad Batch, it just seems like it's aimed at a lot younger audience, and it just doesn't go as far as I want it to go, as far as with like the story and all that, because then it becomes more of just like that fun, happy adventure. And that's where I think this show really has an identity crisis. They did this in season 1. I hope they don't have those adventures again in season 2. We have yet to see, but that's the only thing that worries me.
So basically what you're saying is this episode was the Mandalorian episode from Book of Boba Fett.
I guess kind of makes sense in a little bit when you put it that way.
Yeah, like I don't know, like you said, I hope they go and I hope they continue the momentum, but like we said, they got to go back to the Bad Batch, the main guys. So it just makes you think like, well, we're going to have to get back to some of that fun stuff, quote unquote fun stuff, probably this next week, because I mean, our heroes were just left off. You know, they completed their mission, and like, you know, there really isn't much of, you know, they really don't have a lot to do right now. So now it's just more of along the lines of like, okay, so what's the next like push for our characters? And it's gonna have to be probably a Sid mission, and they're probably gonna run into Cody. Is my assumption. Well, or they'll hear about Cody. And
I like how I don't know if they did this purposely, but in the trailers we've seen for the Bad Batch season 2, it almost looked like they were positioning Cody as like a bad guy or an antagonist. And I don't know if they just did that purposely to kind of subvert our expectations going into this episode, but I'm like, I did not expect Cody to be a sympathetic like character that could actually be an ally in the future. But then that also gets me to worry about the character, because where the hell is he in Rebels? Why isn't Rex ever mentioned his buddy Cody? And I think he could be a casualty by the end of the episode, by the end of the season, if he is one of the people that gets these clones together for a rebellion. Somebody has to fall. I mean, a lot of people have to fall, because otherwise the clones would overtake the Empire, and there would be no Luke Skywalker, right? So there's going to be tragedy, and I just see it already. Cody's not going to probably make it. That's going to be a pretty sad moment. So that's what I'm worried about, seeing Cody. It's like, oh no, he's going to die.
Yeah, I mean, I could.
Either he's going or going. Like it's inevitable, most likely.
Yeah, I could see it heading in that direction. Just because, you know, like you mentioned, Chris, like it's like when you start introducing a lot of characters around their original trilogy timeline, it's like, okay, we got to be careful with this, because you're playing with fire here. Because like if you introduce all these new good guys, it's like, wait, where were they all at for the biggest fight of the rebellion? You know, so like that's the thing they're gonna have to deal with. And with Cody, like you said, is someone has to like be leading the squad, leading the troops or whatever. And I think one of the final episodes of this season were titled like Clone Force 99 or something. So maybe you get the Bad Batch leading Cody and all these dudes into battle or something like that. But yeah, they have to like resolve Cody's story somehow. I could see him either going out like you mentioned, Chris, like in like a blaze of glory, like just F the Empire and like go out in a guns a-blazing style toward the end of this year. But then again, it's Dave Filoni. You know how he is with his characters. Like, say what you want, like, but he, even though technically Cody was Lucas's character, but you know what I mean? He's been fleshed out more with Dave. But the thing is, he's so protective over his characters, like from dying and stuff. I could see them going the route of either like Cody just going off into the sunset, living with maybe like going to like some random planet, like the one clone trooper had the family, remember from the one episode. Like maybe Cody goes off like and does something like that where he's off on some random planet, or you know, I mean, heck, it's Dave Filoni. If he, I don't know, I could see him going the cheesy route, like him. Like the end of this season, Cody saying, "Oh, I have to track down an old friend," you know, meaning Kenobi.
Yeah, Kenobi.
Just leave it off screen. You could see Dave Filoni doing something cheesy. Like, I love Dave, love him to death, but you know, let's be real. We could see Dave doing something cheesy like that, saying, "I got to track down an old friend," and meeting Obi-Wan.
Guess what? We got a season 2 announcement at Star Wars Celebration, and it's like Ewan McGregor. It's his backyard. He's there in the UK.
Yep.
Walks up. Hey, I also got a friend this season. He brings up Tamora Morrison. It's like, Cody's back. For those of you who've been watching Bad Batch, you know he's already around still. Here he is. He's going to be in the show.
Yeah.
You know, I can see that. I can see that happening.
The interesting thing with that, the only thing is, I know we're not getting into like mega speculation podcast here, but my only interesting thing, like, of course, you know, who knows, knowing them, they'll just do some whatever generic ending with Cody. But if there is actually a big plan, if there's a plan in place, I could see maybe something happening like that in that direction. Because remember, there was the interview with the writer of Kenobi. They cut out Cody from season 1 of Kenobi. He was going to be there on Tatooine. He was going to be the one confronting Obi-Wan, and not that random Jedi we got that got hung. So the writer did literally say that. Joby Harold literally said that in his interview, and they cut that. So it's like, you know, did they cut that for the story? Did they cut that for if Dave Filoni got involved and was like, hey, you know, maybe if we do a season 2, here's kind of what I'm thinking for Bad Batch. And, you know, like I could see it maybe going that way. But then again, it could just be an ending where he just goes out in a blaze of glory. Like, it just, to me, it's a coin flip at this point.
Yeah, one of the things that got me in this episode, we've been talking a lot about action and talking a lot about a plot, but as far as dialogue is concerned, there was some hard-hitting writing going on in this episode, some hard-hitting just facts. And it was like something when they first met each other, Cody and Crosshair at the War Memorial there on Coruscant, mentioned something about the Jedi, and he's like, oh yeah, the Jedi are bad, like something, right? I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but I remember it was a sting. It was like, damn, like they like, he said something about the Jedi and about the enemies, and there was just like no remorse at all from Cody. Like Cody's like, yep. It's just like, it's interesting from that Kenobi perspective, you know?
Yeah. See,
that just flips on a dime.
I think was part of him. I think part of that, like the early part was, I don't know about you guys, like we'll have to get your thoughts, but like, I think that was part of the reason Cody was hesitating. Like, you know, knowing the stuff that happened with the Jedi, like, I think that was part of the reason why he was struggling at the end with the governor, like in that whole conversation, because I think that was in the back of his mind, like, man, am I going to mess up again here?
Wait, are you talking about Crosshair?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
But I'm saying Crosshair and Cody, like in that whole, I think that was part of the push that Cody had to like go AWOL, basically, you know?
Oh yeah.
I think that was of course the stuff with the governor, but I think the early push was that whole Jedi talk. Like I think a lot of this stuff is like just planting the little seeds. Obviously Cody went AWOL, and I'm just waiting now for Crosshair to make that next move.
Yeah, what do you think Crosshair is going to do, Milton?
I mean, he's going to wreck people. We know that for sure. I mean, he's always about wrecking somebody and following orders. I mean, I think his story will eventually change. I think something's going to happen to him where he realizes he's on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Again, that's my hope. So we'll see what happens with it.
What I love in this episode is one of those ending shots where you see Cody on the transport. They're bringing the wounded back on the transport, and then a new transport arrives, and it's like all the what is it, the Operation War something, that those troopers, like the Macquarie prototype troopers, walking down the ramp, all the conscripts walking down the ramp, the recruits. It's like out with the old, in with new, because then all the clones get on the other shuttle, they fly away after all the Imperials land there. It's like, that is so symbolic of like this transfer of power and just the completely different redesign of the Empire at this point. And yeah, that to me was pretty striking. And again, the music by Kevin Kiner at that point, where it's like that Blade Runner, very light, but like ambiance and kind of ethereal kind of music playing in the background. It's like, oh wow, this is like one of those really good movements in Star Wars where it makes you think and kind of sit back and like, yeah, Star Wars can do like really good just moments without dialogue that just paint a really good picture, you know?
Yeah, I mean, getting those type of shots like that, like we mentioned with the droidicas earlier, these troops coming down, like all these different like shots just shows like Star Wars has good storytelling. Like they can tell really good stories without any dialogue whatsoever. Like, you know, we mentioned it before. I think I may have mentioned it about a month ago, but like, you know, George Lucas talked about that before. Like, you should be able to like shut the sound off basically and still get an idea of the story without hearing the actual lines being said. Like, it's a visual story. So, getting those cool visuals, like you said, like the McCory troops coming down and like the clones being phased out, like those type of shots are just so nice and unique, and just really harkens back to really what George Lucas envisioned with Star Wars. And of course, like Dave and the gang working on it, like they're respecting it.
Yeah, there you go. Do you guys have any other final thoughts on this episode?
I mean, look, like I mentioned, this is, and I'll give my entire viewpoint. Like I mentioned, this episode was fire. It was one of the better episodes I've seen with the show. If they continue to make this show like this episode, I'm gonna like this season. If we continue to get Sid, who wastes his space, I'm not gonna like this season. I'm saying I'll probably don't like those episodes, but I'm trying to be hopeful. I'm trying to hopefully understand that Dave and his people made better choices, because this episode was a good choice. I love the character development. I love the conflict that was shown with Cody. Rampart, he's just sketchy. We all know that. Yep. It was nice to see the visuals were on point. Love the music. So this is a 9 out of 10 for me.
Oh, 9 out of 10. Matching my score. As I said off the top, my score hasn't gone down or up. I'm going to stay solid at 9. Great discussion, though. Just going over just everything we love about an episode. And we got to put a pin in this, because this is going to be a highlight of the season, I feel like. And we're going to look back, and this is our new kind of like watermark for season 2, right? We're going to go back and be like, if we get an episode where it's like it's not as good, we're going to be like, look, this show has the potential, as I said, it has the potential to dive in some more mature themes, tying back into the greater Star Wars universe, but while saying something that means something, saying something that means something for the clones and who they are, and just things about brothers and everything like that really kind of hits home. So yeah, everything from aesthetics, how it looks, to how the action was really fun. I can't wait to watch this episode again, which is always saying something. So yeah, 9 out of 10. Ben.
I mean, I can reflect both of your guys' viewpoints. Like, I think, well, for starters, to throw out there, while you both were giving your reviews, I came up with the perfect ending to this series. What if it ends like this? Now, I'm sure Milton, you'll really appreciate this, but why not we have all these awesome missions and things? At the end you have Crosshair and Cody obviously being on the good side, and they end it with them walking into Sid's place and Sid going, "I have a mission for you, boys." And now Crosshair and Cody work for Sid. There we go.
Ridiculous.
Oh no. Oh no.
But no, for real though, I think this episode to me is top 3 Star Wars Bad Batch. It's one of the best Star Wars animated episodes, period, from Rebels, from Clone Wars. In my opinion, it's probably top. I mean, there's so many good Clone Wars and Rebels episodes. It's probably top 15 all-time Star Wars animated episodes in terms of the 3D animation. Just because it was so good for all the different points that you both mentioned between, the clones, the shots, the visuals, the transitions, everything I think was executed so well. And then the character decisions with Cody and Crosshair and the governor, that whole thing, I think that's going to all lead to Crosshair turning eventually, because he'll probably be reflecting back on that, or he'll maybe have other situations that come up that resemble that, and maybe he makes a different choice at some point. And I do think though, I think the way it's going to go with his Crosshair is going to be a really interesting character, because now that we know Cody's off the table for being a bad guy, Crosshair, now we got an interesting arc with him, because I mean, we know it from the original trilogy with Vader, and Anakin, and even Kylo Ren to an extent. Like the villains that are complicated are always really interesting. And Crosshair is going to be one of those villains that are right on the fence of being good or bad. And I think we're going to see that transition. It's going to take a bit. He'll probably still do some more evil stuff in these next few episodes. But I think by the end of it, we're going to get him eventually turning, which will make his character that much stronger. And and that much more cool, because his character is one of the more cool ones in my opinion in terms of like his action, like, you know, his like shooting prowess, like all that stuff I think is so cool with his character. And I'm really excited to see where he ends up going this season. But yeah, for me overall, I do think this episode is a 9 out of 10 as well for all of those mentioned points. And I hope, you know, after coming off this high, like this is the roller coaster high, like we're at like the top of the roller coaster mountain now. Hopefully, instead of it like dropping, hopefully the mountain just keeps extending this coming week, and we keep building on that high versus crashing back down to earth.
Yeah. While we have seen a lot of this stuff in the trailer from these first couple episodes, there's still a lot to look forward to, from what's going on Kashyyyk to what's going on Coruscant with the Senate to what's going on with a little Wookiee youngling named Gunji. There's a lot to look forward to with the Bad Batch, and it's going to be just really, really fun when we got to review a Bad Batch episode and a Mandalorian episode in the same week. Because I'm kind of dreading that, but also looking forward to it just for how the hell that's going to happen on this show every week for a couple weeks. We'll see how it works. But yeah, so we got 9s across the board for Bad Batch. I wasn't feeling optimistic of that happening in the first episode, but here we are, so they can surprise us. So we want to hear from you guys. If you're listening live, if you are listening after the fact, send us all tweets. Go ahead, comment in on the video after the fact. What was your score for the Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 3, The Solitary Clone? Next week, I think the episode is called Faster, so not really telling us a whole lot, but, you know, faster and more intense, as George Lucas has once said so many times. We'll expect probably a Bad Batcher crew on that one. What are you guys going to be up to this week? I guess you guys are going to be glued to your TVs with the playoffs starting for the NFL, correct?
That's going to be me on Sunday. Tomorrow, I'm just getting stuff done. I'm going to a hockey game tomorrow night, so that should be fire. Yeah, just hanging out with a friend, doing lunch tomorrow, watching some movies, and then hockey tomorrow night, and then football Sunday.
Nice. That sounds like a really good weekend, man. I'm happy that you're able to kind of unwind a little bit and get into it like that.
Yeah, dude. Listen, I'm not married. I don't got kids. I can do whatever I want. So love it. I just own a house and take care of my spot, and that's it. And obviously go to the gym. So yeah, I try to do me and have fun when I'm not at work.
Ben?
Hey, there you go. That's one of the best things too, for our listeners, viewers, and even, I mean, you know it, Milton, and I'm not sure if you've gone to them, Chris, but going to hockey games are one of the most fun sporting events to go to in person. Like, I love going to hockey games so much. Like, even we have like a minor league team like an hour away from here, and it's just so much fun to go to. Like, they're by far some of the best sporting events. Like, I always recommend hockey games, whether it's minor league, major league, whatever. Like, hockey games are a blast. And then for me, for this weekend, it's pretty much just tomorrow. I'm just watching the NFL. I think the games start at 4 and then 8 tomorrow night. So I'm probably just going to be doing that the second half of the afternoon. Of course, going to get up, work out tomorrow. As always, like, you know, I'm currently dieting, like I mentioned to start the podcast. I'm down another pound this week, which is good. Still a long way to go, but hey, gotta keep chipping away at it, you know. So that's all I'm up to really this weekend, and yeah, we'll be talking NFL, we'll be talking Star Wars, and you know, hey, we'll be talking Star Wars Monday night just on Twitter, anyways, reacting to the Mandalorian trailer. Hopefully all the reports are correct.
Yeah,
that we'll be getting the trailer Monday night. Like, you know, we'll be rocking out to that. I mean, next week we could be having a trailer discussion and Bad Batch review, so that'll be a lot of fun. So you can find me, so you can find me talking Star Wars and the NFL on Twitter at RealBenMaynard, and then you can follow my Instagram to follow along with me, like getting shredded again after I haven't been in a few years, at RealBenMaynard as well. And how about you, Milton?
You can follow me on Twitter at MiltonWeber7 or Instagram at Milton7Weber.
And sorry, I was cutting a little bit, Ben, but I did I did not get confirmation personally, but I found confirmation on Twitter. None other than Carl Weathers, one of the lead sources on Mandalorian news, has said to tune in on Monday night for the football game. So if the star of the show is saying it, then I think we're good to go. So next Monday probably is going to be a little bit of a longer episode. So come in, have fun. We're going to be talking about a trailer breakdown as well as a new Star Wars TV episode. So as far as me, you can find me on youtube.com/Starrapter. That's where you can go to find the live stream going up every Friday at 9 o'clock Eastern. I've also been putting up companion videos as I've been doing in the last several months about whatever comes out that day for Disney Plus. I'm trying to make some kind of companion video to dive in, maybe some cool things that were revealed or just overall thoughts of the episode. So be ready for those. I have something on Commander Cody and how I think that's linking, obviously, with him going AWOL to what we said here with the Clone Rebellion. So if you want to see some very concise thoughts at very early in the morning, then go ahead and check out that content as well, and do subscribe. So that's gonna do it for Milton, gonna do it for Ben, gonna do it for Chris, aka Starrapter. That was Outer Rim Transmission number 91. Thanks for watching and transmitting.